Puppies, kittens, horses, hamsters, dolphins, bunnies, and even tigers. What do all of these have in common? They all end in Z. Well, that's not how you spell. I am not talking about the spelling, you silly little goose. I'm talking about the world-renowned video game series Petz with a Z. Now some of you may be wondering, what the heck is Petz with a Z? If you've never heard of it, then you're most likely below the age of 20. If you do know what it is and you played it, I'm sorry, but we're all considered unk status now. With that depressing reality of getting old out of the way, I want to talk about the topic of today's video. What in the world happened to the Petz series with a Z? Now, this video idea came to me because recently my wife decided to purchase the PlayStation 2 Petz Dogs 2 game. A few months ago, I told her I actually never finished it way back when I used to play it on the Wii. Yeah, kids, there used to be a console where they made you exercise. The horror! As far as I can remember, I only got to the part where you had to race the elephant or something, and then I would just restart the game and make a new character. Why? I don't know. I was 8 or something, and I was too stupid to figure out how to play the game. But I usually pick the Dachshund, because look at how cute that thing is, man.
That's the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Anyways, as I was playing it, it got me thinking, whatever happened to this series? I don't think I've ever seen one of these for years. That would be why. Let's go over some essentials here. The Petz games are a series of single-player video games dating back to 1995, in which the player can adopt, raise, and care for or breed their own virtual pets. The first ever Petz games came out in 1995 and 1996. The reason for two differing release dates is because the dog version came first, titled Dogs with a Z, Your Computer Pet. The cat version was essentially the exact same game, just obviously titled Cats with a Z, Your Computer Pet, and had, you guessed it, cats instead of dogs. PF Magic was a company that created the original Petz series, and the co-founder being, let me check my notes here, Rob Fulop, the creator of one of the most controversial games of the late 90s, Night Trap. It was the first interactive movie game on the Sega's Mega CD. If you don't know the story or controversy surrounding Night Trap, I highly recommend you look into it. It's absolutely bizarre that the guy who made this also made this. There was an interview where Rob gave his response when asked about the Petz series. I'm not gonna go through the entire statement because it's a very long one. I'll just try and give you the tidbits. All you need to understand is that he thought that the criticism he got about Night Trap was BS, and it caused him to have a falling out with his girlfriend. And on top of that, he says that the inspiration came from him talking to a mall Santa, where the mall Santa told him it's still the same, the most popular thing that kids ask for every year is a puppy for the last 50 years. He also mentioned how he wanted to make the most sissy game he could possibly make. Sounds like a wonderful guy. As you can see, the controversy surrounding Night Trap really must have gotten to him, and it even caused him to lose his girlfriend. Whether or not the mall Santa part is actually true, it's still shocking to see such a 180-degree turn in the opposing direction game design wise. I guess he really wanted to make sure he wasn't seen as some sort of creep, so he made video games geared specifically towards children. Hold on a second. Back to the subject. The game also reused the rendering technology previously developed for the best fighting game of all time, Balls. I kid you not, that is the name of it, in which all the characters were made of connected spheres. It's Balls! The concept of virtual pets allowed the development team to experiment with creating interactive, real-time autonomous characters, as cats and dogs acted in ways that the team thought simple enough to successfully implement. When developing the user-pet interaction, a stated design goal was to not penalize users for doing something wrong, and instead putting the focus on user storytelling. The reception for Dogs and Cats was overall met with decent appraisal. Kim McDaniel from the Salt Lake Tribune gave the game 4 out of 5 stars, praising its believability of the animals and the feeling that they learn and grow over time. Robert Phillips from the Herald News thought that it was pretty good, it's alright, and would make a great stocking stuffer. Courtney Blodgett of the Republican felt it would be great for somebody who was unable to keep pets. That's a pretty good one. Of course, this wouldn't stop some people from criticizing the simplicity of the game. CNET's review of the software thought that while it wasn't as ambitious or groundbreaking as previous pet simulator, Elfish, it was fun. According to Wired, it amounted to little more than an interactive screensaver. Ouch. But who cares about critics anyways? Form your own opinion. And people certainly did. Dogs was a success, with it selling over 200,000 copies within the first year. By the beginning of 1998, Cats Dogs and their sequels, Cats and Dogs 2, Your Virtual Pets, had collectively sold more than 1.5 million units. The game and its immediate sequels would go on to inspire a large online community, which is something that the developers hoped to cultivate from the very beginning. They included a built-in photo mode as a way to drive traffic to their website for the purchasable kits for sale there. Following the success of the first two games, PF Magic developed Oddballs, following the same virtual mold as Petz, but it had imagined creatures such as a cross between a walrus and a rabbit. It was more focused on the fantasy types of animals in Petz. I didn't really do any research on Oddballs because I'm more focused on the Petz series, so if you want to know more about Oddballs, I could do another video on it, but this video specifically is just about Petz. But in 1997, PF Magic was acquired by the learning company's Mindscape division for $15.8 million in 1998, and in 2001, Ubisoft acquired the entertainment division of the learning company, granting Ubisoft exclusive publishing rights to 88 titles, which included the Dogs and Cats titles. Ubisoft would then publish Cats 5 and Dogs 5 in 2002, and these would be the last games following the original style before putting the franchise on hold for 3 years. After releasing Dogs and Cats for the Game Boy Advance in 2005 and 2006, Ubisoft announced their intention for a revitalization of the series in direct response to the success of Nintendo's Nintendogs. The successive entries were in many ways very different from the PF Magic games, with many being localized games from Japan or Europe simply rebranded with the Petz name.
Hi, editing me here. I wanted to real quick talk about the studios that were used to rebrand their titles into Petz games. I personally couldn't find much information on this aside from the basic info like, yes, Ubisoft had other Western studios rebrand their games, but I did find this Reddit post of someone explaining it in pretty good detail. They mentioned the studios and what games they made originally and then what it got rebranded to. I'm not going to go over all of it, but if you want to, you can pause the video to read about it. I'll also link it in the description if you're interested. Okay, back to the video.
Classic Ubisoft. In 2010, Ubisoft announced its intention to publish a Frima Studios developed Petz theme MMO under the title Petz World, which they expected to be released in 2011. No further announcements have been made, and no such game has ever been released. Ubisoft would continue releasing entries until 2014, which is where the Petz franchise would finally come to a sudden end. So what exactly happened? Well, for starters, like any market, you're gonna have competition. Nintendogs released in 2005, and it really gave the Petz franchise a run for their money, with over 1.5 million copies in Japan and US by October of 2005, and it hit 6 million international sales by March of 2006, driven by its 3 versions and strong DS sales boost, ultimately becoming a massive worldwide hit with nearly 24 million total sales for the original DS game. I tried to find the specific sales figures for each title, but unfortunately, just due to them never being disclosed, we can never know exactly how many copies Dogs 2005 and Cats 2006 sold. But what we can do is compare the reviews of both of these games to come to the conclusion that Nintendogs was arguably the better game, with the review difference between the two being quite contrasting. Simply put, Nintendogs was the clear victor. To go even further beyond than ever before, let's use some critical thinking here. Nintendogs itself sold over 23 million copies worldwide. The Petz series, and just to be clear here, we're talking about all 53 games here, only managed to sell over 22 million copies between all 53 titles. I think it's pretty obvious that the Petz series just did not stand a chance. On top of this, many of the Petz titles are not well received and seemingly dropped in quality as time went on. The fact that the Petz series couldn't even outsell one game is more than enough proof. I couldn't even find any real reviews for the last title in the series, which was Petz Countryside, aside from a few random websites like Christian Gaming and our all-time favorite critic reviewers, Family Friendly Gaming, with a website design that is straight out of Windows 98. But on the IGN website, I did find one review, Lady Flash Gamer 01, who gave it a 10 out of 10. So you know what? Cancel the pitchfork mob. You heard it here. You heard it from Lady Flash Gamer 01 that this is cinema. This is what peak looks like right here. Jokes aside, between decreasing sales of the Petz titles and mixed reviews of said titles, it's no wonder that the franchise ultimately met its end. It can be argued that Ubisoft saw the decline and sinking cost of supporting such a series, so it doesn't come as a surprise that we saw the plug pulled on the franchise and likewise pull support for their MMO, Petz World. So where does that put us today? Well, you can still play the original Petz 4 and 5 games as abandonware, and of course, games like Petz Dogs 2, as I mentioned earlier, are still available in their disc forms or any of the Nintendo games that are still out there. But ultimately, the franchise has been taken out back and put down like Old Yeller. It's unlikely we will ever see another Petz title again, as it's been 11 years since the last game release, and Ubisoft has made no official statements or updates regarding the series. As per usual, we've learned, don't let Ubisoft touch another series or else it'll be left in the dust for eternity. Or it'll just straight up be ruined. Do you guys remember the Petz games? And if so, which ones did you guys play? Let me know down in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe. That's all I've got for this video. I hope you have a good morning, good afternoon, or a good night.